This episode's Moment in History is discussing the different roundtable groups which have been set up in this country and throughout the world, really, which have used their influential papers, the white papers they write, which get sent off to various editors of papers, publishers, and heads of universities, financial elites, in order to kind of dictate what policies are going to be written about, what news stories are going to be covered. And we want to focus on these different groups here and tell you a little bit about them.
As we revealed in our featured book in our first episode, The Anglo-American Establishment by Carol Quigley, there was a conspiracy by the Anglo-American groups and roundtables to gain control of the media and public opinion, also education and other forms of media, in order to perpetuate the goal of reacquiring the colonies back to the British Empire.
Yeah, they were basically working the Chatham House and what eventually became the Royal Institute of International Affairs, where they ran basically the Times. Everyone knows about the Times of London and everything. That was run by them for many, many decades, still is basically, by those same groups. And it's been that way with most large publications and journals for at least the last 100 years. These think tanks and various groups have come in and have taken over the editorship and taken over many of the producers, which is, again, really important, who is owning the group. Like General Electric owns NBC. They obviously have a conflict of interest there on news that comes out.
Yeah, and GE has also created nuclear weapons and whatnot, so they have a specific interest in war because they have a profit line that is actually dictated by the military-industrial complex. So reporting on things that would escalate tensions and help create the basis for war, the acceptance of it in the American public, is within their interest. And also, while these wars and conflicts create the justification for revocation of our civil liberties and our rights, our inalienable rights, which we should never give up for any reason.
Yeah, these different groups have been working pretty hard with all of the different media institutions to try and propagate different ideas and theories out to all of the different groups of people around the world. And this has served to, yeah, as Jason said, create fake wars, get people behind all kinds of ideas. The media is a powerful tool, and that's why it's really important that individuals like yourselves and other people, us, we all need to get out there and try and put our own voices out there so that just the corporations aren't talking, just the big governments aren't talking, but we, the people, are speaking as well.
And these controls are manifested not necessarily in one massive lurch, but through small baby steps over history. So this is not actually like a specific moment in history, but there's been a multitude of different events which have culminated in more complete control over our media systems, as the control over the editors and public opinion have been one of the major footholds that were gained, and then upon that was built all sorts of news coverage that's friendly to that kind of a voice.
And there's been various, judges' decisions that have been put out, legislation that's been passed, which has, in recent years, allowed corporations to have an even more dominant hold, where they can own news stations and papers and magazines and all this other stuff in one community, which would have been prohibited decades earlier. It's now allowed.
Yeah, and chains, as Mr. Bagdikian in his book explained, were expanded. You could only have maybe one newspaper, one radio station that you could own, and now like you could own a massive amount of these entities and there's no restriction upon it. These kind of moves that are made behind the scenes by the elites to manifest themselves in control of our media paved the way for the false left-right paradigm, this whole puppet show, like a pro wrestling kind of a joke, soap opera, if you will, with these elites, and looking like there's an issue and that someone's threatened, and oh, what about this, and analyzing these little menial aspects rather than focusing on the root issues. The symptoms will continue to be promoted through the media rather than getting to the bottom of things and really getting to the root causes.
Yeah, they use the media to kind of, disguise things that are going on and confuse people and make it so that people don't actually realize what's going on, rather than doing what you're supposed to do and try and enlighten people and give them information that will make them think and prod their ideas in order to grow a better society. So really the worst part about them having control like this, these monopolies, this media monopoly, is that they don't use it for good purposes. They use it for their own purposes, which often have evil backings behind it.
Well, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and this power base that they have in our media is bound to be corrupt and a focal point for people that want to promote their agenda. And we've seen it quite clearly throughout history. They have no interest when they control the media systems to enlighten you as to what that they're doing, creating wars and sacrificing people and all the blood and sweat throughout history in order to promote their agenda. And that is why this is an important moment in history.